fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god!
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh my god! Ah! I can't go! Whenever someone mentions horror games, it's very common to think of these three horror games. It's either Five Nights at Freddy's, Slender, or Outlast. However, there's one game that I think seemingly has been forgotten, and that is Amnesia: The Dark Descent. This is the story about a game that changed an entire genre forever. So you just launched Amnesia: The Dark Descent. You look around, you seem to have woken up in a castle of some sort. This is a horror game. Yeah, you connect the dots. Amnesia: The Dark Descent was released by Frictional Games back in 2010, and revolves around the player, Daniel, suffering from amnesia and waking up in the castle hall. With no memory, he desperately tries to find clues as to how he got here, who he is, and how to get the fuck out of here. He picks up a note to self, supposedly written before his memory loss, telling him that he needs to descend into the darkness and murder the Baron of the castle, Alexander. Daniel from the past also warns the current Daniel that something is after him, some sort of shadow, breaking down reality, and that he has to escape it for as long as he can. So, what have we established so far? Well, first, we gotta murder some dude, but we have to get there first, which is the scary part. 2, we have to face the spooky darkness, and 3, we cannot defend ourselves whatsoever. When the game released to the public, it just so happened to come out around the time when Let's Plays were blowing up on YouTube. So a lot of YouTube creators and gamers alike were early to hop on the hype train. This was the first time ever we could hear someone playing a game genuinely sound like they were fearing for their life. Why was this? Well, the game featured a kind of enemy that you couldn't defend yourself against, so you only had two options: run or hide. Knowing this, the player would already be on their toes from the get-go. But this was far from the main reason as to why people reacted in the way they did, just by playing the game in any given moment. The atmosphere of the game played a huge role in making the game even more terrifying. Not only because just about every object that the player could interact with made an audible sound, but also because the composer of the game's soundtrack, Mikko Tarmia, was tasked with creating a very specific kind of dread within the player. By mixing ambience OST with the sound of the castle around you practically breathing. Random creaks in the floor, people crying in agony in the distance, and the sound of mice climbing through the walls. All these sounds contribute heavily to the general feel of the game, and it's one that still absolutely terrifies me, and it makes the player always look out for any danger or possible threats. And while looking out for any kind of enemy or monster is a wise thing to do, you also have to look after the character you're playing, as Daniel's fear of the dark will repeatedly resurface as you're playing. When exposed to darkness or unsettling events, your sanity level will drop, and you may be prone to experiencing dizziness and possibly even hallucinations. Well, anyway, Amnesia turned out to be a huge success for Frictional Games. After witnessing their success, game developers all around the world tried desperately to recreate this feeling of dread in a horror game. It set the bar for future horror games and practically provided a revival to the genre. Slender, you can only run or hide, don't try and kill Slenderman. Outlast, you can't defend yourself, just run. Oh, and there's jump scares every fucking 2 seconds. Five Nights at Freddy's. Terrible horror game, fun arcade and challenge game, however. Even though these three games I had just mentioned seems to have a huge following, nothing seems to be able to compare to Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Also, the fact that Amnesia only has one single jump scare late into the game really makes a statement on how the human mind works. Let's say you have a game like Amnesia, no way to defend yourself, incredible atmosphere, and few jump scares. You're essentially in for being scared most of the time that you play this game. And then take Five Nights at Freddy's. You cannot defend yourself, average atmosphere, Pretty good in the first game though. And only jump scares. Just boop, bap, beep, buh. In this situation, you're scared for about 0.2 seconds. Now, there's a major difference in human reaction when it comes to either being scared or getting scared. Think of it like a ooh versus a boo. Okay, that was a terrible example, but it makes sense. The key to making a great horror game is to be able to distinguish the element of surprise and genuine fear. Despite the countless attempts at recreating the sense of fear and pure dread found in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, no game has ever come close since then.